Onoa saw her fall. The bird that had been in Dane's hand jumped into the air and zipped past, nearly missing the Khmer's nose. In the marsh she heard a rush of song. Birds took off, clumsily at first, as if they were stiff. An owl that lay in the road moved, then flew away as she stared. She was positive that the bird's head had been cut half off. Shaking her head, she went to the fallen girl. As far as she could tell, Dane was unhurt. With a grunt, the Khmer levered her onto a shoulder, surprised by how light she was. "You need to eat more," she told her burden as she carried her to the ponies. Cloud trotted over to nuzzle Dane, worry in every line of the pony's body. "I don't suppose you know a place where we can get off the road?" Ono asked, half jesting, never thinking these animals would understand her as they did the girl. Cloud trotted into a nearby strand of reeds. Just beyond her, Ono saw a clearing, floored in solid ground. This was food for thought. Onoa followed Cloud. The remainder of the ponies followed her, Tahoe bringing up the rear. Coarse hairs tickled Dane's face. Opening her eyes, she saw nothing but Cloud's nose. "Let me up." Her voice emerged as a croak. "I'm fine." She wasn't really. Her whole body ached, but the pain that had knocked her out was over. "Swallow this." Onoa brought over a cup of water. Drinking it, Dane tasted herbs. A tingling filled her veins and left her feeling much improved. The only sign of the pain that had knocked her down was mild stiffness. "I didn't faint 'cause I'm a baby or anything," she began, afraid the Khmer would be disgusted by her weakness. She struggled to sit up and finish the water. "Don't be silly." Onoa gave her a silvery feather. "Don't touch the edges," she warned. "They're razor sharp." It was metal, etched and shaped just like a feather. If it was steel, as it seemed to be, it was paper thin, impossible to bend. Moreover, it felt wrong, as the sight of the creatures had felt wrong. If she knew nothing else, she knew nature. Such creations did not belong in the world. Seeing them made her feel wobbly and sick. What were those things? Do you know? "I've heard tales, but they aren't supposed to exist. Not here." "They're called storm wings." She heard awe and fear in Onoa's voice. "What are storm wings?" "The eaters." Onoa wrapped the feather and put it away. "But they're legends. No one's seen them for 4 centuries. They lived on battlefields, desecrating bodies, eating them, fouling them, scattering the pieces." She crouched beside Dane again. "Listen, I need to leave you and the ponies for a while. I hope not too long. I can't tell you why." "Then I'll follow." Dane was comfortable enough with her now to be blunt. "This is a marsh, remember? Quicksand, mud bogs, snakes. You told me you don't know anything about marshes." "I can't help that. What I must do is important. You stay put." A picture of the Stormings as they'd first seen them flashed into Dane's mind. "It's that hawk, isn't it?" she asked, and Onoa looked away. "That black one. You tried to call him, but he couldn't make it, so he hid in the reeds. Now you want to go after him? Why is a bird so important?" Onoa's eyes glittered with annoyance. "Never you mind. He is, that's all. He's more important than you can imagine. If something happens to me, take the ponies to the riders. Tell Bury or Sarge what happened." Dane saw how she might repay some of what she owed this woman for taking her in. "I'll go." "Out of the question." She retrieved her crossbow and quiver from the packs. "Don't be silly. It's only a few 100 yards out. How much trouble can I get into? Besides, I know about bogs, and I can find lost animals." If she waited, the Khmer would find a good reason to keep her back. She saw a game trail leading into the reeds, and she took it. "I'll yell for Tahoe if I get stuck," she called. "Dane!" There was no answer. "When I was that age, I listened to my elders," Onoa muttered, conveniently forgetting she had done no such thing. She grabbed Cloud's rein as the pony tried to follow her mistress. "No, you stay here. And don't try to argue." She tied the mare's rein into a string for the first time since they'd left the fair and settled down to wait. The trail took Dane to a pond. She skirted it, always making for the spot where the monsters had left the wood. A grouse darted out of the brush. Following it, she walked a trail that lay on firm ground to reach the trees at the marsh's edge. There she sat on a rock, wondering what to do next. If the bird was alive, it had come down somewhere nearby to hide from the storm wings. It was nice, this green wilderness. The sense of growing things filled her nostrils. The sounds of animals and plants waking from their winter sleep filled her ears. What had the badger said in her dream? If you listen hard and long, you can hear any of us, call any of us that you want. Surely listening wouldn't bring on the madness. She wasn't trying to be an animal. She just wanted to hear them. Definitely she'd taken advice from worse people than badgers in her time. Besides, if the hawk was alive and hurt, it might be thrashing or crying in pain. She'd hear it, if she listened. She'd have to be very quiet then. She settled herself and slowed her breathing. Her brows itched. She eased it. A burn throbbed on a finger. She put it out of her mind. A breeze fanned the tips of the reeds, making them sigh. 2 plops ahead. A pair of mating frogs. Well, she had no interest in that. A rustle on her left, some feet behind. A pair of nesting ducks. Didn't people think of anything else? A gritty noise at her side was a grass snake coming up to sun. It was nice on the rock, the warmth just perfect on her face and on the snake. There, left, closer to the trees. She frowned. It didn't sound like a bird, like the hawks and falcons back home. She felt dizzy and befuddled, almost like the time she had swiped a drink of her mother's home-brewed mead. That yip was a fox who had found a black bird, a large one. Dane headed in his direction. The fox yipped again when she almost made a wrong turn. She found him next to a large hollow log. The hawk had concealed itself inside. "Thank you," she said. The fox grinned at her and vanished into the reeds while Dane looked at her new patient. "Clever lad to think of hiding there," she murmured. "And since when did hawks ever think of concealing themselves?" "Come on out. They're gone." She put her hands into the log's opening, praying she wasn't about to get slashed. The bird waddled forward, easing himself onto her palms. Moving very slowly, she lifted him out and placed him on top of his hiding place. He stared at her, beak open as he panted. One outspread wing seemed broken in 2 places, maybe even 3. Her hair prickled at the back of her neck. Anyone less familiar with hawks might have taken this bird for one. She could not. He was too big, and hawks were not solid black. His color was dull, like velvet. There was no gloss to his feathers at all. He wasn't wrong as those storm wings were wrong, but he was not right either. She cut reeds for splints. "I'm from Anawa, Anawa Chamtung of the Kamiri Rade," she told him. "Do you recognize that name?" She didn't expect an answer, but she knew a kind voice was something any hurt creature responded to. "I have to splint that wing. It's broken." She cursed herself for not having bandages of any kind, and cut strips out of a petticoat. "It'll hurt," she warned. "Try not to peck me, or we'll never get you fixed." Ignoring his gaze, she gently spread the wing. The hawk cried out only once. That was another strange thing, she thought. Other birds had savaged her for less pain than she was giving this one. She secured the outspread limb onto its reed framework, feeling him shake under her hands. "You're being a fine, brave lad," she crooned, securing the last cotton ties. "Your Ma'd be fair proud of you, wherever she is. Whatever she is." Repairs made, she slung the crossbow on her back. "I've got to carry you," she explained. "Try to keep still." When she gathered him up, taking care not to bump the wing, he trembled, but didn't bite or slash. "You're the oddest bird I've met in my life," she murmured as she followed the trail back to the road. Heavy, too. She was sweating by the time she found Anawa. "His wing's busted." "Horse lords be praised you found him." The relief on the comer's face was scary, as if he's a friend or something, Dane thought. Anawa lifted the hawk from Dane's arms, examining him with delicate fingers. Somehow Dane wasn't surprised to see that he was as calm with Anawa as he'd been with her. "If we move the packs onto one of the gentler ponies, he can ride on them," Anawa suggested. "We have to get well away before we camp." Dane nodded and shifted the packs to a mild-mannered chestnut gelding. On the road, the bird rode quietly, panting without making any other sound. They left the marshy valley and entered the wood, moving on after dark. Anawa lit the way ahead with her magic. They had walked for hours before she took them off the road onto a small path. Here she lit a torch and gave it to Dane. "Farther up there's an open shed for drying wood. It's big enough to shelter us and the ponies." She dug out the materials she used to work her magic. "Get a fire going. I'll be there as soon as I can."